How you doing, Warriors? RC, Mike, James. How you doing, boss? Bran, Ingmar, Ryan's here. It's cool. I don't know if Kman is. Patrick, how are you? AJ, dear coach. I'm short US dollar yen. Hi, Glenn, Ingmar, Marcus, everybody. Okay. Jumping Jack Flash. It's a gas, gas, gas. So I've been talking natural gas for quite some time. Yeah, you like that, Patrick? All right. So, I've been asking our guests about it. Yeah, I figured Rolling Stones, gas, gas, gas would be all right. Um, anyway, Ryan, maybe I should do what they do on X. You know what someone on X would say?
What's that?
Hope you caught it. Translation, translation. I know you missed it. You dope. You
Oh,
know,
the amount of people always post the ones at work on Twitter, eh?
yeah, yeah. Anyway, I hope you caught it. Anyway, I caught some of it. All right, so let's start talking currencies and metals. And you think it's going to go this time, Ryan?
Which way, up or down?
You know me, Dale the bear.
Dale the bear. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
down is
It's
faster. All that stuff.
yeah. I,
Gravity.
I'm not so sure.
Okay,
I think we probably head higher than we head lower. But
all right.
all this risk stuff going on, it could really go either way. You know, we haven't had a bit of data out of the US for a while, so maybe if we get we get back on that bandwagon again. Maybe we'll get a move. The market will remember there's something else going on other than lobbing missiles around the world.
Okay. Hey, Mike Weisman, how did you do it with futures? The Nat Gas? Okay. Anyway, I was thinking that it's not the Widowmaker anymore. I'm going to rename it Nat Gas. It's the Divorcee Maker because her husband finally cleaned up in Nat Gas and she took half and divorced him. So no widow. Okay. It
Mine
was
just
her
switches the heating
choice.
on.
It was her choice.
Yeah, mine just switches the heating on. That does my profits in.
All right. So you have a feeling on the dollar, feels like it wants to do nothing.
We're
I
waiting. We're
mean,
waiting. There's a lot of
uh,
pairs on a lot of key levels, like euro dollar. I'm getting a bit worried about that one at the 105.
yeah, that support
Um,
is tested quite a few times.
yeah, it kept failing at 106, and now we're down, and the bounces are looking weak off of the 105. So yeah,
Yeah.
this is
There
a
were,
simple one to trade. You can either try sticking to the range 105, 106, or
yeah,
if we're going to get a break, be it
yeah.
down or up, it's gonna go some.
Okay. Um, the reason why commodity currencies are acting a little better.
Gold up.
Okay.
Aussie's when we were talking about this in the flow show. Aussie's looking a bit firmer versus the Kiwi. Two similar countries, similar
Yeah,
currencies.
they're
Um,
cousins. Yeah,
Bit of China in there. We know the RBA are being sticky with their policy. Gold's up again. Commodities are rallying a bit. Copper's rallied. So there's reasons why the Aussie will be more supportive than the others. You compare that to Kiwi dollar, and that's looking much weaker.
okay. You doing anything new with Looney? You just holding it here, looking for another high?
No, I'm out. I got out same time as Blake the other night when we
Oh,
first came back down to that 50 level, and
okay.
I fancied buying it yesterday. I didn't, and it rallied through 140.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not as keen this morning. Again, we come back quickly to this 139, 50, 60 level, and it's looking weak off of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we move through, and then probably we're 139, not much after.
Okay. Yields are still stiff, but it looks like they're trying to roll over. This rally's pretty weak compared to what we got here.
Yeah,
Um, any
we're bang in
data
the
that
middle.
could move it here? We need to get back under this 430 level.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, without the any real data input, it's all risk headlines. So you
Yeah.
know, if you get a big risk headline, then yeah, we'll be under that in a flash. Um, but then you've got to remember, take away the risk headlines. If things de-escalate a bit, calm down, yields probably go back to what they've been doing for the last 2 months, which is rallying.
Okay. Well, NVIDIA turned out to be kind of a non-event. Started off sharply lower, um, about, down a buck, but, we had this initial reaction down here. Underneath 37, the trapdoor would open, but can't rule out new highs. But besides Bitcoin being the star, the market is kind of underperforming Bitcoin quite a bit. And I'm looking at the S&Ps here, and this could just be ABC. If you want a top pick, it's a type stop. Maybe you risk 560. That would negate the island. But if we roll over here, if this is just a flag and kind of looks that way, and Nasdaq's even weaker because it hasn't taken out this high yet. So we'll see. I still remain negative, although I won't know. One more day left on the week. But so far, I think we just have an inside week, and we've had, not even a 50% retrace in NASDAQ. Okay, so I still think there's potential for the top being in. Okay,
The best time to trade that one, Dale, 5 minutes
what?
before the close on a Friday, with all this risk going on.
Oh, okay, yeah. Would you go home short over the
I wouldn't
weekend?
I wouldn't go home with anything. I'll go home
Yeah.
flat. Um,
Okay.
yeah, at the moment.
All right. So thank you, Ryan.
My
Let's
pleasure.
go to your partner, your buddy, your longtime trader buddy, Kman.
Hello,
Uh,
Heidi, hi.
how are you, buddy? So
Yeah, not
you
too
have
bad, Dale. Thank you. Yourself?
good, pretty good. Okay. So you're getting a nice pop in gold.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is the bottom for new highs, or this is just a reaction to correct the decline?
Um, I think we are close to decision time there. We are turning around the 50% of the halfway of that move down that we had.
Yeah,
Obviously, quite a bit is due to what's happening in geopolitics right now. But as I said this morning, it's also interesting. It's not every day these days that we're coming out of the Asian session higher, and I always like to watch what the Asians are doing with that gold, right? Um, and they bought it overnight, so that's going to be an interesting watch, I think.
yeah.
But yeah, can we get back up to 2,700 possible? Therefore, 26, 35, 45 needs to hold down. That's my zone, 26, 35, 45, where it should hold. If it doesn't, this is just a correction in the correction.
Okay. I was thinking maybe we did something like this, pulled back and then made another run. Um,
Yeah, I
just,
mean,
just,
yeah, look at what's happening around 35, 45, I think. Therefore, that's what I'm going to look for. I've let pieces of mine go, as I usually do. Planning is to reload lower. Um, for now. I still think in the longer run we're going higher, but we need to take shorter term factors into account, and because it moves quite a bit, right? If you look at
Yeah.
we dumped nearly 10% or so, or
Yeah.
8%, and we're back up 5, and we need to take all of that into account, and it's something that moves around, right?
Yeah.
As for silver, I think it's underperforming
Yeah.
because of the economic uncertainty surrounding geopolitics, and we need a better we need a better economic environment for silver to outperform gold, I think. So
We'll have to wait for the installation of Trump for that
yeah,
to
it, it
become a
it
thing.
could have to wait. It could really have to wait.
Because this gold silver ratio is on the verge of breaking out,
Hmm.
which if we
Yeah,
and it looks like it's trying right here.
yeah.
And I know Blake doesn't like head and shoulder formations that don't happen at the bottom.
Mm,
You know, kind of mid trend.
yeah.
But this measures 92. I mean, that's
Mm.
a pretty big move.
I
So
think it's possible. You know what? For silver to outperform, the other one that we need is a Chinese revival. If
okay,
we get a real Chinese revival, then silver will absolutely fly, I think.
okay, all right. So any vibe on the dollar here?
Dollar in general, for
Yeah,
no, not in particular, but I do find the euro really lacking any strength at all. I For as long as if for as long as we are below 106 figure 10, it's looking down for me, this euro dollar. If we break back above 106 figure 10, then it's going to be a different picture. But for as long as it's below there, I
so
don't.
what's a feeling in the UK with the reports that UK missiles were used? I think they hit one of Putin's villas with his underground command center with the missiles from the UK. He's threatening the UK
Hmm.
retaliation there too. Do people are they just going about their business? They don't think about it, or is there a vibe in the street about
I
it?
don't know if Ryan has any other things that he picked up, but from where I sit, not a lot of people are
Yeah,
talking about it. No.
they're more worried about what they pay for an avocado.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right, I got you. Uh, okay. Blake, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning.
Do you want to? You're probably doing a. I know you are a multitasker. Are you busy, or you want
I,
to talk to us today?
you know what? It's funny that you say that, or you said that because yeah, I was actually just trying to tackle another issue,
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean that I'm not here listening to you guys. And when you were talking about the gold silver ratio and inverted head and shoulder patterns, or when you're looking at a ratio, I mean, it's more of instruments that I trade when I feel that way.
yeah.
And I'll give you a perfect example of this. And let me see if I can take over the chart
See,
here.
because this is like midstream.
Yeah.
This is the formation
Oh,
right in here.
I'm sorry. I wasn't looking at your
That's
screen anymore.
okay. I'm
What do you guys
stopping.
see?
I
Do
see
you see?
your chart now.
Okay, you do.
Euro.
I'll give you a perfect example of this, and I actually mentioned this in the chat room. I'm like, if you guys know me, I hate
Oh,
this
I
chart
see.
setup here. I mean, this is exactly, you know, a head and shoulder pattern without an arm, and it's just in a mid range, but it doesn't mean that we're not seeing
Yeah,
um, weakness here, and it won't play out. It's not one that
yeah,
I'm going to play. Euro New Zealand's the same way. This is the same type of thing.
right.
So, yeah, they're setups that I'll look at them. I just don't like to trade them because head and shoulder
Because
patterns
you're a
are.
purist. You're a purist.
I am a purist. Yeah, I'm a
Oh,
purist.
okay.
It's
You
like,
know,
I count every golf shot too. And I know some people don't. So there.
well, some traders are technical analists.
Yes. Yes,
They're
this is
very
true.
anal about everything. So
This this is true.
anyway, Just draw
Hey,
squiggly lines. Go ahead.
There you go. Let's. I think what we should do though is talk about everything that's kind of happened overnight. So, let's start off with what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. Now, Ryan and Kman have been around, since early this morning. What we've seen is we saw the Euro Swiss, break below 93. I've been trying to play this thing on the long side, but I'm not too comfortable with it right at this moment because, I didn't think things would escalate where they're at right now. And what I'm most worried about is, and I've actually gotten messages from some people outside of our community that are like, "What the hell is the Biden administration doing?" And frankly, I don't know, and I don't know, and I have other people outside the United States that are actually messaging me, and frankly, like I said, like for an outgoing president to be kicking the dirt like this is pretty crazy. And so anyway, with that being said, you have things that are escalating. You've got the euro that's trading not too far from its lows. We're still waiting on hearing who uh, 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 President-elect Trump is going to put in as Treasury Secretary, and I think that's going to be maybe the big catalyst that allows for the dollar to actually break out, or maybe it even reverses. I don't know, but as K-Man was just saying, yeah, we have to get back above 106.10. I mean, that's resistance right there. And unless that happens, we have to assume that the downside is going to we're gonna break to the downside here. That would have to be the assumption at this point. But the flip side is, and you look around and sterling is trading right at support. The Aussie is acting better. And I think
Yeah.
Ryan could give us some indications of why the Aussie is acting a little bit better. Kiwi is still above support. And it's not saying that these levels can't break, but then you look at the dollar CAD, which is acting extremely weak today, maybe because crude oil is above $70. So with crude as strong as it is, dollar CAD, we got a big false breakout possibly brewing here. So if the dollar CAD really comes under pressure, well, let's just say if the dollar comes under pressure, the dollar CAD is going to be in the spotlight. And then we have the dollar yen, which is actually starting to show a little bit of a reversal thanks to some of Ueda's comments overnight, which has left the door ajar for a potential move in December. So let's talk about a few of these key developments that are happening overnight. We'll start with Ryan. Ryan, what do you make of this situation with Ukraine and Russia, and why the U.S. is doing what they're doing, and how's this going to affect markets that you see here?
It's going to affect it exactly as we're seeing. Any big headlines, big bombs dropping, you're going to see risk off. We could have a whole conversation about why you need 2 and a bit months to swap over the leader of your country, but that's a different conversation. Maybe we'll do it in a week. That's the way you guys set it up. Yeah, we've been talking about this escalation for weeks. We've stepped up now. They're lobbing bigger things at each other. The next step up is obviously going into the nukes territory, which we hope we don't get to. But I think this escalation period is going to continue. This phase of lobbing bigger stuff at each other is going to continue until such time as it gets to a point where the next step is close, and then that's when we finally, hopefully, get round to talking around a table, because no one wants to step over that line.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like to me that it's a very precarious situation. And how could it de-escalate? I mean, in your opinion, how could we see a de-escalation of all this?
Well, we've got to wait for Mr. Trump to get in, because he's gonna do it all in a day, apparently.
And that's the other thing is, when you think about that, like you think about, Trump coming into office, and he's proclaimed that he's going to, everything's going to be fine when he gets in, and he's going to put all these different situations to rest. You wonder sometimes, is this the Biden administration, saying, yeah, well, I'm going to leave you quite a mess before we go. It's just so silly. But it is what it is. I mean, we are
The
dealing.
thing is, we know that none of this is about the Ukraine as far as Putin's concerned. It's about him and NATO parking up right on his doorstep. Bases, missile defenses, all that sort of stuff. And he sees it as encroachment, and that's the situation that's got to get resolved. And very unfortunately, Ukraine's in the crossfire of it all.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, let me ask Kman, and let's talk about the yen and Ueda's comments overnight. And I mean, it just put a stop to, and I would just want to look technically really quick here at the dollar yen. You look from the high to the low, we're above the 618, got close to, you can see I have some alarms set up here because I was actually going to short on one more rally above these highs. I don't know if we're going to see that as of yet. We just hit the 161% extension of this last leg lower. You can see it right here. We hit that basically, and we're consolidating around it. But these comments seem to be pretty important, by the looks of them. What do you make of what Ueda had to say overnight, and what did he say that is moving the market there, Kman?
Well, he does repeatedly say that he will look seriously at the impact of FX on prices and potentially monetary policy. So it's a bit. It does seem that much more than Kuroda anyway. He is looking at FX a bit forced to. We understand why they did it when it went above 150, then 160. But he keeps on talking about it, so that indeed leaves the door open for a December move if they wish to do so. Especially, I think, if the dollar continues to advance in general. I think they will. They may do something. Yeah. But because that's exactly what I said on the flow show as well. Normally FX is left over to the MOF, but this time we talking about a different central banker, potentially also pushed a little politically, because we know that Bank of Japan is the most dependent of the independent central banks around. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, it's interesting. You look at all these yen pairs, and I'm gonna, obviously the dollar yen moving higher has been moving higher because of yields. But you look at like the euro yen, it's really stalling below the 200 DMA. We haven't been above it, in the last couple of weeks. A lot of that obviously has to do with this very weak euro, but even sterling yen's in this channel, but hasn't really done a whole lot. Aussie yen and Kiwi yen have been really sidelined for quite some time, and I've actually played these on the short side, and it's a very frustrating trade to be short. It's obviously very frustrating to be on the long side as well, but you can see they are just moving sideways in very, very tight ranges. And the Canadian yen just, it's knocking its head up against channel resistance. So, they look like they're stalling, but we don't have any definitive reasons to be trading them just yet, do we?
No, and I think this morning again. Anyway, you had one thing was Ueda, but then you had this whole Russia-Ukraine thing about which missiles have been launched when. That also put the hammer onto the yen pairs. Yeah, it's still a difficult one. If you look at the medium term, dollar yen is still bullish, if you ask me. But we are not far from levels that could get interesting. And so I'm looking at that 153, 40, 60 level, and obviously the 152 is also still a pretty big level. But yeah, if you look at it medium term, I think it's still bullish. But yeah, things can change. And what we were talking yesterday about with Dale is still valid. If you have whatever position that you have, and you're in it, and you take pieces off, and then you let the market do its thing, until your plan is valid until the market tells you that it's invalidated. So it's still a decent play to sell the rallies and then pick them up again if you are well in profit and start over again. And on the other side, it's exactly the same. That's the definition of a range right now. But the range is not defined by a normal situation, because you're in an election, you're in a Ukraine, Russia, and Middle East geopolitical situation, and then you're in what Japan wants to do, right? The Bank of Japan. So yeah, the ranges top and bottoms will be revisited within 12 to 24 hours every time.
Yeah, it
So
does feel like that.
I heard Terry Duffy yesterday, who's been
Who is
like the
that?
chairman, CEO of the CME for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And he was being interviewed, and he was talking about how the 20 and 30-year-old traders have been buying the dip and sitting and holding, and that's been working big time for a while. But he thinks that the market is seriously not discounting the geo risk.
Mm.
That's Terry Duffy, and that
Sanguine
people
markets.
should be hedged. Huh?
Sanguine markets, and that's what we've been saying. And in FX, you have moves in the bond market, moves in other risk markets. Yeah, but look at stocks; they are still they're still
Yeah, I
very
know.
very high as well.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah.
geopolitical risk in there
Well,
at
that's
all.
what he's saying, that they're, not taking it into account.
Right.
Money
So
doesn't care about doesn't care about
it
much scale,
doesn't
right?
care till it does.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
But
Yeah,
it's been that way for so long. And
yeah.
so the question everybody asks is the market ever going to care? And it will. It just, doesn't right now. Speaking of not caring, I mean, take a look at Bitcoin. We're nearing 100,000. Talk about a risk asset. If there is ever a risk asset, Bitcoin continues to
The
claw
poster
up
boy.
towards 100,000. Yes, we're selling off a little bit right at this very second in time. If you look at an intraday chart, you can see, Bitcoin's coming down a little bit. Sure, but
Oh,
overall, like
two
it's
drives.
still, yeah. I mean, what's that?
Two drives on
One,
the prior. Yeah, two.
two, and then
Pull back and then three.
three will take us to
You're
that
103.
100,000 mark probably. Yeah.
Yeah, you're 1.618. That's a
Well, we do have data coming in just a few minutes. And by the way, Ethereum's up 8% this morning.
I am such a fan of that guy on Star Trek. When's he going to
Oh,
be here?
Ethereum.
No, you said data. We have data coming in.
Oh, data. Got it. I got you,
I'd like
Dale.
to interview the
You,
guy.
you throw a zinger every once in a while. Yeah, we got live data coming.
Okay.
Yes, not
Not that guy
not from Star
data.
Trek.
This.
No.
All right.
No, we got jobless
How
claims
disappointing.
and then Philly Fed data coming out, and we haven't had a lot of data in the U.S. This week. So maybe the market's waiting on this unemployment data to make a move. Now unemployment claims have been very very low, and the numbers have come in very very low for quite some time. But maybe today we might see some volatility. So we got the dollar index right in the middle. S&P over here to the right. I'm going to put yields over here on the left. I'll just put it the US 10 real quick. And there's a 15-minute chart. Let me fix up this chart a little bit. There we go. All right. So there's the
Why'd you never put euro sterling up?
what? That's a good joke. That's a good
You
one.
might think, what move 2 pips?
All right. Well, maybe we'll see some moves here. Following the data. By the way, we are still, as I mentioned earlier, we're still waiting for a Treasury Secretary. So that could happen, and it could end up being next week, but it could happen anytime, and that probably will be the catalyst that drives the dollar. Whichever way it's going to go. It's gonna, that's probably gonna be a big move anyway. All right, we got 15 seconds till data. Ryan,
I'm for Bernie Madoff for Treasury Secretary. You can let him out of prison and let him manage the Ponzi scheme. He's a
There you
master. All right.
All right. Data is.
There, same old, same old.
Oh, hey, well, look at
Oh,
the
he
jobless
died.
claims. Look how
Sorry.
strong those are. I mean, that's a, look, we're gonna be giving away jobs after we're done here
I mean,
soon.
continued claims is up a bit into the
Philly Fed actually
1.9,
has dropped, went negative. So
but nothing major. Yeah, Philly Fed minus 5.5 versus 8 expected, so that's a bit soft.
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if that gives us any type of direction today. I think we're probably still going to be waiting on headlines from for a Treasury Secretary and what's happening in Russia, Ukraine, because right now that seems to be what's capturing the entire market's attention right now. I do want to point out, like, if you look at the euro, yes, we are trading really heavy. I think Kman, maybe I heard you on the Flow show say this. It does feel like the euro is going to break those lows by the weekend. It sure does feel like we're going to at least test those levels. And unless we get a Treasury Secretary announcement that happens to be, a dollar bear to fit into Trump's master plan of weakening the dollar, it feels like that is gonna that we will test those lows. You have any last comments there before Dale brings in Angie?
Not personally, Blake. I mean, it's no. I think the euro is weak, but that's all I can see and say for now. The rest not really too much of a view, I must say.
All right. All right. Well, Dale, I know you have Angie here. I want to thank everybody for being with us this morning. We're all waiting on pins and needles as NVIDIA is going to carry the stock market to new all-time highs today. I don't know if we're going to do that, but you can see the stock market is
Sure.
strong.
Yeah.
So
Sure. Strong. Yeah.
it's really strong. All right, Dale, have a great interview. Thank you, Ryan Kman, and thank you, Coach.
All right. Thank you, Ryan, Kay, Blake.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys. Hi, Angie. Welcome back to F.A.C.E. Great to
Thanks
see
for having
you.
me.
And yeah, so we have some things to cover. We had a red wave. What's the agricultural industry thinking about with this new administration? Tariffs?
Well, yeah, I mean I don't think you can throw a rock at this point without having someone talk about how tariffs are going to impact agricultural trade. So, I feel like that's at the forefront of everyone's mind to a certain extent, but we're also watching or waiting to see a lot of us on, we forget about the phase one agreement that was made in January of 2020, and the fact that the Biden administration hadn't necessarily rolled back much in the way of the Trump tariffs to begin with, too. And so I feel like, yes, the talk is definitely warranted about tariffs and what it means for ag trade, but I think, in a lot of ways we may have the cart in front of the horse when it comes to what is going to happen and what it'll mean for trade as we move forward, for commodities, agricultural commodities at least.
Okay. Um, so, I've been looking for this base. I think this was the last time we were on, and corn turned.
Yes.
Its lows are well behind it. Um, so I'm thinking, do you think that if, there are going to be tariffs on China, but I don't think we're going to put tariffs on our agricultural products because we want to help the U.S. farmer. And,
Mhm.
the new administration wants to weaken the dollar, which will also help exports. Do you think that if we put, you know, tit for tat with China and tariffs, that we'll lose them as a customer again? They'll go to Brazil.
Well,
Can Brazil fill their needs? Are they coming in with they have a good crop going? Because carryover on beans on all the grains is pretty tight, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, carryover is seen as relatively adequate, right now at this point. There's a lot of unknowns left, or at least answers that we will get when it comes to actual U.S. production here in the January USDA report. So unfortunately, we've got about 6 weeks, before we'll have much in the way of solid answers that are more data driven perhaps than survey and some other field evidence driven, and so that'll be the
Yeah.
one thing that we'll watch, and that's the wild card. But yeah, the worry is that if we get into a trade war again, or which I have to say, I hate that when we get into, if we get into, we've never stopped trade warring. Like it is not one of those things where like, Trump left office and it was kumbaya and we all sang together. I mean, it
Right.
really is one of those things where it has been a continual pressure on China from the US. I mean, you've seen, pretty solid targeted trade restrictions with chip, your AI, your all of these other
Yeah.
things, electric vehicles. So it's not like China has been like, oh, we've had this great, reciprocal relationship over the last 4 years, and that's just going to be trashed. So I want to kind of make that point that
Right.
that's not the case. Even during the bulk of the trade war, or at the
Great
height of the
point.
trade war, one of the things that China was able to do to really offset their demand for beans, I say do, it happened to them. They had African swine fever basically rampage their hog herd. And so a lot of people
Right.
forget that in 2018, their hog herd was basically decimated, absolutely destroying their demand, which helped them cut, their imports from the US from like 1.1 billion, to around 300 million the following year, which was huge, and it had massive implications on price. However, the following year, we saw them in 2019 come in and buy, an additional 500 million bushels because they'd had more mouths to feed. Obviously, Brazilian production has increased enough to where it can kind of push the US out when it comes to Chinese demand. But I think one of the things that's also important to remember in the bean market is it's not just, yes, China is a huge consumer of beans, and they're going to be a huge importer of beans, whether it's Brazil, the US, Argentina, what have you. They're going to need to import, 90 million metric ton of beans, give or take. But you've also seen a massive expansion in global biofuel demand that's,
Yeah.
basically, palm oil, soybean oil, canola
Right.
oil, sunflower seed oil. And so the market structure is very different too. So yeah, we could give up or see a reduction in China purchasing from the US, but that doesn't mean necessarily like right now everyone says if this, then this is guaranteed. That's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of a lot of things that we still have to position around to see what happens. And so to me it's not as black and white as what everyone wants it to be at this point.
Okay. I look at the beans and the fact that we bottomed here on the daily and it was confirmed makes me think that we could press for another low coming in beans. Although I don't think that's going to happen in wheat. We're putting in a nice higher low. And I guess you have to say corn has the most constructive chart of the three. Reasons
Hmm.
for the strength in corn compared to beans and wheat.
Yeah, corn has definitely has the best demand story that we've seen out of all three
Okay.
markets at this point in time, and that surprised a lot of folks. One of the things that we talked about when I was on in August with you was that I thought we were kind of stuck in this sort of echo chamber where there were a lot of people saying that we didn't really have much in the way of corn demand, even though we were seeing the US was really the only supplier of consequence of corn of high quality, readily available, able to be shipped corn, in the world. And that continues. We have seen a bit in the way of competition coming in from Ukraine and Argentina here recently. Brazil's gotten a little bit cheaper in the short term because they've had some logistical improvements. River levels have gone up. But when you look at, our corn export sales, the program itself is off to one of the best starts for corn in many many years. Like 2020 was huge, and so it's one of those where we're kind of following that pattern. But we're really working to outpace the USDA's export projections, and it looks as though we could see those, that demand level get bumped up here in upcoming reports. In addition, we've had record ethanol exports. And so one of the things that we had really kind of, pressure corn here is all of that talk of the blend wall, right? We're only going to use so much fuel, and we can only put so much ethanol into that fuel, and so long-term demand is going lower, was the narrative. It's not the case. We've actually, last year was, if not record, close to record ethanol production and record ethanol exports. And I think we see a continuation of that that's going to help to support domestic corn demand as well. $4 corn is cheap, and one of the things that, historically speaking, anyway, and we're talking about strong exports, we're talking about strong ethanol demand, but you also feed $4 corn. Like the old adage is, with a scoop shovel, you feed expensive corn with a teaspoon, you feed cheap corn with a scoop shovel, and so I think we're going to see some real strong demand continue in corn, and the risk is there, that the crop is a bit smaller. If you look at spread action, if you look at corn spreads, they've went from 20 cents worth of carry to 10 cents or less worth of carry, which is a sign that there's not as much in the pipeline to meet demand currently as we would want to see. A lot of folks have said that that's because of slow farmer selling, but if you look at the commitment of traders reports over the last couple of weeks, farmer selling's been anything but slow. And so the speculators have gotten long corn. There's a lot of different reasons as to why, and it'll be interesting to see where we head next. We can't seem to break out of trapped in is our only problem.
Yeah, and you know what? You have to respect how corn has acted in the face of a stronger dollar.
Oh yeah.
This has been one heck of a dollar rally.
Yeah. Well, and even with the rally in the dollar, we're still seeing super strong export demand. So like this
That's
week's
what I
export
mean.
sales report for wheat even, came in on the high end of expectations. Corn came in more in the mid range, but as I was saying, when you look at corn export sales versus a year ago, they're up substantially, and the USDA is currently not projecting that type of increase.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, with the oils that are used for energy purposes, is Nat Gas a competitor to any of the agricultural-based energy products?
It can be. I mean, to a certain extent, I think you're going to see that more in our foreign, maybe some foreign market structures that you would see if nat gas is cheap, or if it gets expensive. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, nat gas is in grains is more of an input than I mean, I'm not going to say that it's not a competitor by any means. Someone in the
Okay.
industry will probably correct me if I don't. But it's an input in ethanol production, and so
Okay.
it's a cost.
All right, and the costs are going up. Is that going
Yes,
to
and
have
so your
impact
margins are getting pinched a
then?
bit.
Oh,
Yeah,
just what those producers need
not
right
what we want
now.
to see. No.
Yeah. Okay, well, I did want to touch about anything you're seeing in the meat markets that we should be paying attention to.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some continued strength there. I think you've had fund participation in hogs and cattle, kind of be a bit surprising. I watch livestock more out of the corner of my eye. That's my husband Carl is my partner in crime, in life, business, and crime. Not
Yeah,
as much crime for real, but
yeah,
he's the big livestock expert in a lot of
okay,
ways, and between the two of us. But he said he continues to believe, and I agree with him, that we see continued support. Demand is solid.
yeah,
People like protein. I'm seeing, more and more of the push to really kind of increase lean meats and things into diets. And
yeah,
I think if we see a more protectionist trade type strategy too, you could see an increase in domestic meat demand. One of the things that we've been seeing recently was an increase in ground beef imports and some of these other things that could create softening domestic demand. But if we do look at taking a more protectionist stance or see a return to MCOOL, which is the country of origin labeling that we had seen a few years back, or several of these other things that could happen to kind of keep support underneath this market, and it's always ripe for a sell-off if you see active speculator participation, but it's never really a guarantee either if you have the fundamental supporting factors underneath it.
okay. Ukraine play into any of this action in
Oh
wheat?
my gosh, yeah.
All right,
I
so
mean,
tell us, yeah, so tell us, what's happening there. I know it's it's the breadbasket.
Yeah, well, I mean, you
It's like
have
the Midwest.
yeah. I mean, Ukraine is a huge producer of grains, corn and wheat especially. They have some sun seeds and obviously other products that they produce. And then you have Russia, who's a huge producer of wheat.
Wheat. Yeah.
The smaller producer to a certain extent of corn and some of these other things. And so, right now, the market itself, the market structure itself, the cash markets, all of these things don't really show any sort of concern over what's taking place.
That's
But at the same,
amazing.
it is amazing, but at the same time, I mean, you have a lot of the same people that told us we had nothing to worry about, throughout much of February 2022 prior to the invasion, saying that this isn't a necessary escalation. It's just saber rattling. It's nothing to fear. And over the last couple of years here, we've proven that even in the face of war, we're able to move food.
Yeah.
Um, you
True.
know, I, I do think that the risk of escalation is great. I do my best every night not to check the Twitter feed between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. Just because I'm worried that I'm going to wake up and one day we're going to have this escalation that could really kind of send us back higher again if Russia were to do anything. Or either party at this point. I don't even think you could say Russia, I think Ukraine could, work to do you see an attack to ports? Do you see something that ramps it up even without a nuclear type escalation? I mean, that's something that we're watching and definitely something that could take place here over the next couple of months with the escalation that we've seen. I'm not taking sides by any means, but it was surprising to see the long range missile decision come after the election. I thought that, basically that was kind of put to bed to a certain extent. I
People are trying to
understand.
figure that one out.
Right. Like I understand, but I don't understand. Because it is really an escalation that I don't know. Like I said, it's one of those things that at any point in time, things could get hairy, and I will never forget, what happened shortly after the war when it came to market
Yeah.
prices and farmers and spreads and commercial. Like it was
People have forgotten, Angie, so let's get out the telescope. All right.
right.
You had $13 wheat. All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so this is really this is how bottoms develop. They develop quietly and in silence and uh, you know, uh, we need to get over 7 for a big breakout. But,
Yeah.
it starts somewhere. So there's your weekly in wheat. Uh, there's your weekly in corn grinding, and yeah, I think beans have one more low in them. So anyway, yeah, interesting. For me, it's not hard to pick sides. One
Yeah.
side was an aggressor and
Oh yeah.
destroyed someone
Yeah.
else's country
Yeah.
just for grandiose reasons.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah. So anyway, what are you doing? What do you think for the retail guy, what they might be considering if they want to diversify, maybe away from stocks or the metals aren't working? You have a favorite play in the grains? Is it just buy dips in corn?
Yeah. I
Or would it be spreads where sell the front month and buy the back? We haven't turned into, it's still a carrying charge market, right?
Yeah, we still have carry in the market. Corn
Yeah,
market's got carry in it out until through December actually right now, though it's a lot less than what it was. The wheat market has some pretty substantial carry in it as well. And beans we've seen, basically also, some strengthening in spreads there. On the spread side, I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, unless you know what you're doing, if you're a retail person on the outside looking in, I don't know if I would mess with the spreads.
yeah,
What the market says should happen on the balance sheet itself and what happens with physical movement will be two very different things. And I think, you know, you could think that the spread itself should be more bearish, and actually see it, you know, turn more bullish because we're trying to push bushels into the pipeline that just don't want to move. And so I think you could see some interesting developments in spreads here as we work towards delivery, especially in corn and wheat here. You know, I think outright, you know, like you said, buy the dips. If we break out above 434 in corn, you know, I would
434.
think we would see some additional buying. Beans 985 seems like solid support, you know, up to 1020 or so. I mean, really right now the range is the thing that I would say get comfortable with and look to get in and out each day basically based on where the range is trading.
Okay. All right. So let me show your website and how people could get a hold of you, Angie. So where's Disco profile? Okay. That's a younger me. All right. Here's the goddess of grain,
Right there. Yep.
everybody. And this is where you could follow her. There's her husband and her business. And here's where you could find her. And I think that people look, you know, if you believe in gold, which has been around a long time, well, you have to believe in the grains as being part of this commodity scenario coming up. I know they've been lagging, but what do you think this year? We're going to have La Nina, not El Nino, La Nina in full force. And my experience is that makes for in the Midwest dry, hot summers. Am I correct on that?
Definitely, yeah, we're definitely going to be watching what the weather does. South American weather right now is super is solid. Like no concerns on the radar to speak of for
Okay.
South American weather. US weather, we're way away from worrying about it, but it'll definitely be something to watch. I think it's the demand story. I think it's the return to inflation story. You know, you saw Japan with the stimulus overnight and some of these other things, and yeah, I would not be the least bit surprised if in some way, shape, or form we didn't see soybean carryout drop below 400 million, and corn carryout drop, you know, to 1.5 billion, give or take, here and really kind of set us up for an interesting dynamic into 25.
Okay. There you go. So you could check her out. She has a free trial, Angie does, at
Yes,
her
I do.
consuac.net. So, you know, check it out and start looking into the grains and maybe diversify away from currents, you know, included, especially if you're a currency trader, you'll kind of know when the dollar is a headwind or a tailwind for these agricultural commodities. So great to hear from you, Angie.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I couldn't believe it's already time for me to come
It,
back. I was like, there's
I
no
know
way, right?
I know it's a blur, but thanks for, you know, coming here and sharing your expertise about something that, you know, we can't do without. Okay, you can't eat gold, can you?
No, you
So
definitely can't. But you can
every
corn and wheat. So feel
yeah,
free
that's
to
what yeah.
come on in. The water is warm. So,
Yeah,
but
check out Angie, and especially if you're a listener and you're in the business and you need someone to help you hedge your crop and want to put it on, give the goddess a call and talk to the husband and wife team. They'll help you with their understanding of the fundamentals of the grain complex and the meat complex. Thank you, Angie.
thanks for having me. Talk to you
All
again
right.
soon.
See you in the brave new world next year.
Right. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Angie Setzer, everyone. You can follow her on X at the Goddess of Grains. Thanks, Angie. Okay, everyone. So that's a wrap. Everyone cool? Everyone all right? All right. Yeah, check it out. You know, I think grains, I've seen grains. They're very good technical markets. They have a reputation for it. Okay. All right. Well, everyone, you could join the team in looks like 19 minutes for the morning edge. We'll see everyone tomorrow, TGIF, and wrap it up. I think that, yeah, beans in the teens again, Forex Gal. All right, Joe. Don't just count your bushels, count your blessings. See everyone tomorrow. Adios.